Hello everybody, it is Coco here and welcome back to another video. As you can see, there is a lot going on in this frame right now, and it's also Christmas time. Hope you guys like the little holiday setup. Still not done with that, so that's a story for another day. But I needed a lot of models out because today's going to be a very special video. I've seen a few other creators do similar kinds of videos, and I kind of wanted to come in and share my own experience with making tack. So I have been making, horse halters, things like that, since I used to do, little backstory on me, I used to do Schleich content back when I was in high school. So way back in like 2013, around that time was when I was doing Schleichs, and I stopped for a long time. I mean, life happened, I was busy, I was in college doing things like that, and I didn't have time to dedicate to having a setup or a designated space into working on, model horse stuff. But things have settled in my life recently. I've got my own house, my own space to kind of be creative and, do things with horses again, and it's been really fun. But I do still have in this bag all of my homemade tack and everything that I've made. Some interesting things in here, since everything in this bag is like over 10 years old. So I just thought it would be an interesting video to talk about some of like the older pieces that I've made, and to discuss some of the newer things that I make now and how I have improved on techniques over the years. I've come a long way, I will say, even considering I haven't done it in a long time. Kind of getting back into the swing of things, and it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun to work on tack making again. So, in this frame right here is everything that I've made recently, except for two things. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to see if you can suss out who's wearing the decade-year-old tack. Okay, these two right here. So I wanted these to try to make some space here. I wanted these two to keep older tack pieces on because I wanted to kind of show an example of a way that I have improved on tack, over the years, and something that I've always held myself standard to, which we'll get into when we get into the bag. But I did not make this halter. I think I traded some stuff for it. I used to trade tack with people, back in the day, and as you can see, it was silver and it's now tarnished. So that's something that really I try to stay away from. On the other hand, my cat is in my lap. Oh gosh. On the other hand, this is also one that I made around like 2013, 2014. As you can see, all of the hardware that I used is not tarnished, whereas you can see these silver jump rings have turned brown, which I really like this halter because it's so hard to find polka dot ribbons, especially this size. And I probably just need to deconstruct it and try to... Stop it! Oh, he's trying to get up here. You need to go somewhere. Hold on. Crisis averted. I'll probably just cut that part out, but I hope everything is still in frame pretty well. He's so bad. He's so interested when I'm up here doing things, and he just wants to come see what I'm doing, but he's a Godzilla, and he just knocks everything over, and he's big and in the way. Anyways, that's an ongoing struggle I deal with. So I closed the door. I thought he would be good, but I should have known better. But, anyways, back to what we were talking about. As you can see, even though this one, I've always used, like, this is leather, turquoise leather that I had, I didn't make it super well, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, it's a little chunky, it's a little clunky, but he still looks really cute, and I do still really like this one. So I just wanted to talk about, in today's video, some little tips and tricks, things that I do to make my tack as realistic as I can, and also some things to just make your pieces really long lasting and the highest quality. And then this is a little project I've been working on. I thought it would be fun to do a demonstration of how I make halters. So I'm going to be making a matching halter for this set in real time so you guys can kind of see my process and how I make halters. This blanket was a very in-depth project. I struggle a little bit with the blankets. Not gonna lie, they're very time consuming and lengthy, especially because I don't do any sewing. I just do gluing, so it's a challenge to kind of keep the gluing symmetrical and seamless, not a lot of spillage. But I mean, I'm not perfect, but I do think that overall it looks really good. I've been making a lot of blankets. You can see some of my other content, the Halloween series that I did. I made a lot of little Halloween blankets. That was a big learning curve to kind of get to this point of this style of blanket. I know a blanket, you know, kind of been there, done that. For a lot of people, they have kind of their method, and this is sort of like my method of how I do blankets. As of right now, I do know that Rio Rondo, I think everyone who does tack making these days knows about Rio Rondo, that shop. They've been around for a long time, never had Rio Rondo money back in the day, so you'll kind of see some of the things that I used to do to circumvent that. But I want to talk to their customer service to ask, because I like the blanket fasteners, the blanket hooks that they sell. I like the way that they look, and it adds like a really nice touch of realism to the tack. But I need to know if they are tarnish resistant, because it would really upset me if I bought them and, you know, had these pieces and, you know, 5 or so years later everything still looks immaculate, but the fasteners are starting to tarnish. I take most of my stuff out of the package when I buy it and put it in little containers. That way it's easier to, you know, have everything in one place. But I hit the camera, sorry. I usually only try to buy things that are tarnish resistant. That's a big thing that I look for when I buy material, because I don't want to feel like it's a waste. You put so much, you know, time and effort into crafting something. You don't want it to just be, you know, a waste of your time and your labor, your resources. You want to make sure you make a quality piece that is going to last for years to come. So unfortunately I don't have an example besides, you know, the wire. I didn't take that off its spool, but usually when I buy pieces, I organize them by color. So I take everything, you know, this is my silver, I've got my gold, my antique bronze. I really enjoy working with this color. I think it's really fun. Here's an example with some antique bronze. I really like the kind of like westerny feel it kind of gives to have like that old hardware kind of look. And then I've got black gunmetal, whatever you'd like to call that. And then I've got these little specialty buckles that are cool. And then of course, little mini buckles for foal and pony halters. So I, you know, organize everything into their own sort of little, so it's easy, you know, if I'm making a halter, I want to use gold, here's everything I need for gold. I want to use silver, here's everything I need to make silver. So staying organized is a big thing. And at the end of the video, I can show, over to the left of me, I've got a big like rolling cart with all of my tack supplies on it. It's just a really nice way to keep organized and to have everything in a spot where you can find it. So I think it's about time we get into the bag. I'm really scared and excited. So this is not everything I've ever made. I gave away a lot in, you know, trades and things like that, but this is everything that I kept when I put my horses in storage. So I think most of them were kind of, move these out of the way, most of my models were wearing these when I put them away. And so I kept them because, you know, it's sentimental. So right off the bat, up here at the top, we've got, they have matching halters as well. So these are 2 little foal blankets, or pony blankets, whichever. We'll get little girl here. Very cute. She's a bigger foal, but I had these on my Frisian foals because I've got the 2, so I do kind of the twins. Yeah, it's not going to fit around her. She's a little hefty. But This style is a style that I use to do a lot. Let me see if I get some out of here. Okay, here's one that I made that's like falling apart. You can kind of see the vision. It's the same kind of, trim ribbon with Velcro. I used to do a lot of Velcroing fasteners. Really thought I was doing something here, But yeah, you can definitely see the progression with that. So let's just get all the blankets out. I'll tell you which ones I've made, which ones I haven't. That used to be my favorite one. I do crochet, so I crocheted a couple of blankets. Starting out hot and heavy with the blankets. A few of these I did not make, I got in trades, and I will be sure to show those examples as we go along. Wow, that's just like that was like the whole bag. So now we've got a whole pile of blankets. So as you can see, most of them are going to be Velcro fastened. I keep hitting the camera, so sorry about that. But yeah, the Velcro used to be kind of the standard for me with blankets. Let's get her. It's our model here. But yeah, in theory, if you just want a quick little easy to put on, the Velcro's not bad. It works out pretty well. And when you do, the felt, you don't really have to worry about putting in the trim like you do on fabric, because the fabric, I dropped one. The fabric, you're gonna want to be able to cover those lines so where you don't see the fraying. I really loved this blanket. This was one of my favorites. But yeah, you don't want to show the fray. But the Velcro, it's nice, but it's not the most realistic look, It looks very elementary. It looks very clunky. Probably should have used the white Velcro on this one, but I guess I just ran out, didn't have any. I don't know. But yeah, the Velcro, and then you always have to worry about pulling it off and the Velcro coming off of the ribbon or the felt. I mean, considering this is like over 10 years old, a decade old, it doesn't look bad. I will say that most of the stuff I made did hold up pretty well. But the Velcro, I clearly was a fan of the Velcro. It was oh my gosh, look at that one. So that looks terrible. The neck hole is way too big. We'll get into, the inconsistency in like the shape is really bad to see. So something that I do now to kind of combat the inconsistency in the shaping is I use patterns. So I made patterns for every horse size. I have like a dedicated pattern. So when I cut out my fabrics, I have a for sure template that is going to fit perfectly, symmetrical, seamlessly every time. And then you're not going to have any issues. So I highly recommend that, especially if you want to make a lot of blankets, definitely make templates. They are a lifesaver. You'll save on materials. You never have to worry about, I use this one as my pony one. I just extend the front a little bit because it's a good size still. But you never have to worry about, this problem of unevenness in your cuts, wasting fabric, if you cut wrong and you're like, well, now it's completely unusable because I messed up. So that's just something that's one of the first things I recommend to help improve your tack, is to, I always liked this one, but you see it's lost its Velcro. Velcro's not reliable. But yeah, that's one of my first tips I recommend, is always make sure that you measure and have a template. Like that saying goes, measure twice, cut once. You don't want to waste precious materials, or else this is the result you get. Very weird, uneven shapes. This is not one that I made, but it's one that's equally as old. But yeah, you can see that she definitely, or he, whoever, I don't remember who made this one, but definitely did not use a template and that severe like drop around. It's really weird. I guess that's to like account for, but that's like a really big head hole. I don't know, because even on like her, that's a really big head hole. She's kind of like falling out the front, like, girl, pull your shirt up kind of thing, you know? That's what that makes me think of. But yeah, having a pattern definitely helps. And I'm not saying that the ones I make now are, you know, in no way perfect, but I will say that I really try to prioritize like a snug fit around the neck, making sure that, count how many times I knock the camera in this video, prioritize just like a clean, finished product. Something that looks really seamless, you know, nice connections. I'm still working on potentially making like an adjustable version, but I do think that one's pretty good. I'll show it on a different model. I think, you know, generally the sizing is okay. But yeah. Yeah, and always secure. There's like no glue. I guess I just didn't glue there. I don't know. But I did not make these. They all came from, except for that one, these all came from a trade partner, but you know, she did kind of the same thing. Hers are a little better than mine. They're holding up a little better. But yeah, the Velcro just, it's really nice for fastening, but it just does not look realistic. You lose a lot of the realism with the clunky Velcro. I did not make this one, but I know a lot of people do this little, I wonder if these were silver. They tarnished, they're like brass, pure brass now. Because most of the silver hardware, if you don't get tarnish resistant, they're coated brass. So this is what you'll end up with after a few years, is back to brass. But yeah, she used, oh, that's probably from another blanket. She uses the Velcro, and a lot of people I see do this little double ring thing, which is fine. You know, I understand not everyone can, you know, source professional made buckles, but the realism again kind of lacks. And something else that you can see she didn't do that I always make sure to do on mine with loose ends, she didn't seal the ends. So you can see that, I keep saying she, I don't remember who made this specifically, but I mean, most of my audience is female. Most of you guys that do the Schleich thing are female, so I hope I'm not mislabeling people or whatever. But she didn't seal the ends, and this is kind of what starts to happen when you don't seal the ends. Because even on like a blanket like this, anywhere that I cut where there's a raw edge, I put a little bit of glue. I mean, you can kind of see right there, I seal the edge. It might not look the nicest sometimes, but you just want to make sure that you're trying to cut this little bit off. It's not going to happen. Just trying to make sure that you preserve the integrity of it as best as you can, because sealing all those little loose edges are just going to make it last even longer, and you'll have a piece that is going to, oh, I didn't mean to hit the camera that time. This thing is on and it's hot, and I touched it on the back of my hand. That kind of hurt. Be careful with hot items, you guys. Gosh, what was I saying? I'm sorry. But sealing the edges, yeah, you'll make sure that it's something that's going to last for a long time. Like even back here where I folded over and I glued the strap down, I still put a little bit of glue to seal that edge to keep it from fraying. Same thing with right there. There's glue to keep those edges from fraying. Because one thing about ribbon that I'm sure a lot of you guys know if you've cut ribbon, once you start to unravel, yep, see, it's just going to continue to unravel, and then you'll be left with a mess like this over time if you don't seal that edge. I mean, whenever you just cut it, yeah, it looks all nice and clean, but if you don't seal the edge over time, oh, it just completely just falls apart. The only thing about ribbon is they're, especially these types of ribbon, you know, gross grain, satin, they're woven. So always, always seal that free edge. I see some people will use like a lighter. I don't believe in using, you know, more, you know, fire than I think is necessary, because I don't want to catch things on fire. So I'll show you how, you know, I seal mine when we make the halter for this guy. He looks so cute without his blanket, but I do like this one a lot. I know I have a Schleich blanket here. Plaid seems to kind of be the standard for, I mean, this is like an Argyle, but I've seen like they make a lot of like plaid-esque blankets. And you know, the Schleich blankets are not bad, but they also just lack the realism of like a real horse blanket. And again, the Velcro just kind of cheapens the look. Though I will say that that's probably like 8 at this point. I will say that these are made to like last, and they are made for kind of like rough play with children. Because I mean, it's sewn really well, and you know, you can do that a million times and it'll probably not affect, you know, these are sewn in, it's not going anywhere. So as far as that aspect, I can understand like why the brand, you know, makes these like easy to play with blankets. But the realism of like a real horse blanket, you know, works out better when you try your best to model the real aesthetic of a horse blanket. And these are just like some crocheted ones I made for fun. They really I just thought they were cute. And it was a way to kind of protect them in storage, you know, from knocking into each other. They've got a little bit extra padding. I would like to crochet, you know, I'd still do crochet. I would like to crochet like a blanket, but I would definitely need to use like embroidery floss or something to crochet, because that's like a smaller weave. I did not make this blanket. I think this was from a trade partner, but you can see at least they sealed their ends, and you know, even years later it's still held up, but they did not seal the end down here, and you can see that that ribbon is starting to come apart a little. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but I can see where the blue is starting to, yeah, you can kind of see it here a little better. Yeah, you can see it starting to kind of come apart because those edges weren't sealed, whereas like on mine, I sealed the edge down here and down here to make sure that that won't happen. Just lay that on you for a second. This was like a prototype I made, which I need to deconstruct. When I very first pulled these guys back out of storage, I tried like a buckle style, which like it worked, but I probably could have done this bit a little better to have like some wrapping overlap, but it kind of would stop here and leave like a gap, and that's not very nice. I need to deconstruct that so I can get my buckles back. But this was before I made the patterns, and you can see the neck gap is really, you know, pull your shirt up kind of thing. So I would not put this blanket on her because it is made for like more of a heavier horse, but let's see if it will fit on my big boy right here. It should in theory, but he's a little bit of a smaller build. But I did use the draft blankets, but these are my biggest draft horses, so might be a little snug. Okay. Neck fits really well, but this is the part. Suck it in, suck it in. Okay, wow. So he is my biggest horse. And it's a little tight around the neck, but it fits him pretty well. Oh, he looks kind of cute. I like that. This blanket on him, it's a little short. I usually have this size kind of sized for like Clydesdales, these, my Black Forest horses. This is like the size for them. Would probably fit him a little better because he's a little slimmer. But it would probably fit on my Percheron pretty well. But considering he's my biggest, beefiest boy, it fits pretty good. But if I was going to make a blanket for him specifically, I would probably need to adjust the pattern a little bit to just be a little longer. It doesn't quite, you know, come over his rump there. But I try to make most of my pieces now to where they can fit on multiple horses, you know, of course, in considerations to their breed class, you know, like a heavier horse, a lighter horse, things like that. All right, so that is blankets. Let's get him fastened back in. Usually I use these tweezers for everything. Fingers are clunky. Tweezers are pretty easy to use. I don't know, I got it on my other horse pretty well. A lot of my horses don't have names. I usually just call them by their breed. But, wow. It's really giving me a fit there. I mean, once it's on, it's on. I just, I bend the hooks to where they don't accidentally come off easily. Like, once it's on, but getting it on is a little bit of an exercise in patience. But see, I think it fits this guy a little better because it extends past his, rump a little bit. A little bit more of a cozier fit. Okay, so on to the rest of the bag. There's a few things in here. Just dump it out. Put all these back in because we are done with the blankets demonstration portion of this video. I think this was just like a little, I don't know, back pad thing. Not a saddle pad, but just like, I don't know, playing around with crochet again. Let's get that out of the way. So there is a lot of things in here. Again, lots of Velcro. I've got like some little transport boots. Lots of those. I've not tried to make any of these since I got back into Tack. Okay. I mean, it's just very straightforward. This one's Velcro is busted. Let's get the little pink. He can wear pink, it's fine. That one's busted too, but I mean, you just wrap it around. The Velcro is nice for that. This is, again, that set that other person made for me. She just had, it looks like she made her own buckles out of coated wire. I used to do this too, which you'll see in here. There's a few that are like that. So that's fun. Now I can't get it off of him. But yeah, that's boots. We already had the Velcro discussion. So I'm not really gonna go back into that. Alright, so halters. There's quite a few different ways I used to do halters. This is one where I tried to, make the buckle, which you would take like this kind of wire and just kind of wrap it around like a needle nose pair like that until you got like a tri-glide buckle kind of shape. And that was the halter. This one's coming apart a little bit. Again, you can see that it's not tarnished after, however many, a decade, I guess, of being in storage and being used. It still looks nice and shiny silver. I used to just tuck the end of the ribbon, which kind of makes a little clunky look. But yeah, old style ribbon halters. It's another one with that buckle compared to the way I do like a standard ribbon now. She's got gold hardware on, but it looks very clean. I really, when I make these now, he's got the antique bronze. I really like the antique bronze. I really take my time to try to keep it from looking messy. You can see, a lot of glue spillover, messy edges. It's not a very clean finished product, whereas I really take my time to make sure that the finished product is super clean and seamless. So there's a lot of ribbon halters in here. I would, play around with color combinations, things like that. So here's a different sort of style. The hardware is gold, but this crimp cover is silver because I used to not have gold ones of these. So you'll see that when I do, here's another one that's gold with a silver crimp cover. I would have to use, this one's falling apart, but I would have to use the silver because I didn't have gold. But this was like a newer kind of style that I adopted kind of towards the end. Let's see if it'll fit him, where you just kind of would, his muzzle's a little big. Well, he's not a good candidate. We need to make someone, you know what, he's still wearing an old one, so you can see what I mean. It was like this easy release style I used to do a lot of because I did not have buckles and I did not really like the way that these looked towards the end. This was sort of made towards the end of, that era of my tack making. I thought this looked a lot cleaner, and it was, much easier to get on and off. Here's another one that I made that was a beaded style, but again, it's got this easy catch up to the top. At the time, I thought this was revolutionary. I thought I was really onto something here with that. But we'll get into the beaded in a little bit, because this is kind of like my little patented thing that I do there. But yeah, lots of me making buckles, folding over my ribbon to not fray, because even back then I understood how big of an issue that was. Yeah, some of these just don't look good. And some of these I didn't make, they were from, trades and things. This is just all the ones that I just still have. I think this one was from a trade, because I always tried to make the connector piece. This is one I made, I know for sure. The connector piece just adds to that realism of like a real halter, and I usually would not leave a connector piece off unless I was making like a slip show halter. But yeah, some of these I don't think I made that are missing a connector piece. This one was made from the same girl that made that pink polka dot one, because these were like the first few halters that I got that I had little tri-glide buckles, and I just thought they were so cool. I was like, wow, she has real buckles. But something about these that, I like mine better now. These kind of look similar to the ones that are from Rio Rondo's website that I've seen, which I like mine better. I'll get one out. They're very, I touched the glue gun again. They're very thin and kind of flimsy looking and feeling. I don't know if you can see like how tiny that is. And mine are, try to get close here. Mine are like a little heavier duty. He's got one on his. I just feel like mine look a little more like, I don't know, just heavy duty. Heavy duty is like the only word I can think of. Like even this little pony one is one of my, I get these from a seller in China, so I ship these over here. But I do still like this one. I'll probably cut it off and save it so I can use it for something else. But they're not the most heavy duty in my opinion. Oh, we've got some, this is an old, oh, look at that nasty mess, prototype leather one I tried to make. It's a good buckle though. Yeah, that is not nice. This was my attempt at trying to make a bridle, I believe. It's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. I do believe this was supposed to go with it, and it came off. Yeah, that looks like it was its chin strap to hold it down. But yeah, I probably thought this was so good back in the day. But yeah, I might recycle this leather because it's still pretty good leather. And that's something else that I started to kind of do towards the end. This is an old one that I made, was do like this little dotting thing. I just thought it added a little bit of realism to have like grommets, like the look of grommets on a bridle. I remade, this was on, you might have seen this one before. See, I made a gold hook out of some wire, so I didn't have to do the gold and silver, so it could all be gold. This was a halter that was on my Shire Stallion, but I recently made him a nice new Christmas jacquard ribboned halter. Looks really nice. Very festive for this season. But I wanted to remake this kind of white leather and gold style, so I did make it recently. I think it looks pretty good. And I tried out the little, just experimenting with the dotting thing again, and I used like the finest little paintbrush I could find to do like some dotting, and I think it looks a lot better. I tried to make it as symmetrical as I could. I'm not an artist at all, but I think it just adds like a fine little detail that kind of just adds a little bit of extra element of realism into the halter. Oh, I think this was like a little set I made with like a very early prototype bridle, kind of like a side pull kind of thing. Yeah. Ooh, this is like terrible, tarnished. I don't know if I made this one or if someone gave it to me, but it has a little charm that looks awful now. I don't know what this is. Probably came from like a playset or something. A little braided halter. I could never figure out how to make rope halters. That was not my forte. Oh, an old style of trying to make like the Schleich style. Oh, is not gonna fit his head. You know, like the Schleich style ones. I have a couple of these. I think that's upside down. I don't know, it might not be. The Schleich ones are not my favorite. They're very messy, and in my opinion, they're very clunky. And they just don't look very nice. I always feel like they're just chunky, and I don't like the way they look. They're a little messily made as well. You know, the ribbon's not seamlessly together, and they don't really fit very well on, oh, barely. Okay, I'm having trouble. Yeah, it's not going to go over his ear. They don't fit on horses with bigger heads very well. And I don't like that this is attached to them and you can't get it off. So I kind of make my own version of show halters, whatever you want to call them now. Pull that down. And I feel like, I mean, this one's nice and pretty with the gold, but I feel like it looks really clean. And then of course you've got your little lead that you can take on and off. Close that a little more. Yeah, I like the way that I make them, and you know, I try to keep enough space to where, or enough, you know, slack with the chain that they can fit most horses, even those with a bigger head. And we'll just hook it on, yeah. I try to make these more like one size fits all, and I feel like that looks pretty good. I mean, of course, a horse with a really, really big head would probably need a special size, but I mean, this is kind of like most one size fits most, you could say, instead of like one size fits few. And also like the chain that they use is really clunky. I try to use like a more fine chain. That way it's not so chunky looking on the face. I really don't like most of the Schleich's Tack. I mean, I'm stuck with the saddle and bridle sets because, well, this one's falling apart. That's kind of all I've got. I thought about making my own tack like that, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to get into that. So this is something fun. Okay, now we're kind of on to beaded styles. So towards the end of my tack making as well, I started to kind of play around with more beaded and intricate styles of, this is like a really elaborate Arabian show halter set. I'm not sure how that's supposed to go. I think like that. I don't know. Here's like a recent version that I made of, you know, like an Arabian style show halter with his little I try to do something different than like the double chain, but that's kind of like a newer one that I've made. But let's try on, if I can figure out how it was supposed to go. I don't know which is the front and which is the back. I'm just gonna say this is the back. No, this is probably the back. I don't know, you guys. I made this and it just broke. Anyways, I made this so long ago, but I was starting to experiment with using like a beaded side piece. Here's another halter I made with a beaded cheek piece, and here's another one I made with a beaded cheek piece. It's not gonna fit on him. But it was just trying to make something different, you know. Tons of people make ribbons halters, you know. There's tons of ribbon halters, and there's kind of only one way to make a ribbon halter. So this was around the time I was trying to kind of come up with something unique and different, and I really liked playing around with this beaded style. This one in particular is one I remade recently. I really like this. I think it came out so well. I had to sneeze. I think it came out really well, and it kind of, you know, pays homage to this older era of tack that I made. I do something a little different now with the beading that just makes the finished product look really clean instead of, I used to use, you know, rings that were way too big. Why? I don't know. But they still look okay. It's just not a very clean, it's not a very clean look compared to like this one, where everything is a little cleaner and finer tuned. Then it's a little clunky over here. And this was also a style that I kind of did that was a little different when I would make leather, especially, was this under hook style instead of, you know, the, hope someone's still doing a camera knock count, instead of this, this is like the classic kind of way most people do halters, the double style. I still kind of do it now on occasion. This is one I made recently, and it has the underhook, and I mean, the way that I make lead ropes is still hooks just fine. Just a little something different to try to just, you know, mix things up, add a little bit of uniqueness into the products that I make. I really enjoy, you know, making things like this, and it's a lot of fun for me to do. You know, especially playing around with, you know, intricate and detailed styles like this. I really enjoy making really fun kind of show pieces, if you will. He looks so cute in his set, and you know, this was something that I was always experimenting with, even, you know, back in the day. Like, this is something I made a long time ago. I think I deconstructed a jewelry set, and that kind of inspired me into, you know, wanting to make more beaded creations. I really wish that this thing hadn't broke. I don't even remember how it went. Would have been cool to put it on and see how it looked on him. I don't even know. But I'm pretty sure it was, you know, these were the sides, kind of like this, and it just had, you know, lots of dangles, lots of tassels, lots of drama. That sounds about like me. But yeah, it's just really fun creating, you know, unique pieces. So anyways, I've got the sniffles, sorry. That is all of my old tack styles, the ways, how far I've kind of come. And, you know, some of these, like, you know, I've probably seen me putting these over here. I still do, you know, like these, and I would still honestly use them today. They're a little clunky. I probably could have been a little cleaner with creating them, but as far as a little quick piece of tack goes, they really don't look too bad, in my opinion. I mean, I'm a little biased. I did make them, but considering the skill level I had back then, the materials that I had, I think I did something really cool with making these, and I still stand by them even 10 years later. I still think they're a good little piece of tack, and that's why he had this one on, because I really like the color. I think it looks really good on my little palomino here. And that was also something, you know, when I first started trying to do the dot thing, the dots probably could have been smaller, a little more uniform, but I did my best, okay? From a distance, look, put it back here, it doesn't look bad. But I definitely work with leather a little better nowadays, I will say. Working with leather is quite a challenge, and there is quite a few things I have learned working with leather. A problem that I had back when I made pieces like this is I did not ever thin the leather out, so it's very chunky, and that kind of adds to like that chunky look. So something that I've started doing with that is I have this leather skinner. I don't know how else you describe that. I forget what it's really called. I'll put the name on the screen. But before you make the piece, you put the leather, you know, wrong side up. Not the top side, that's nice, but this side. I hold it down and I basically skin it to thin it out. And you can see right here, this is a piece that's been thinned out, and this leather was originally about that thick. So you can see it makes quite a bit of difference to thin out the leather, and then it makes for a cleaner look for Tack. Let's get all this out of the way. Lost my bag. Okay, now let's get into the reason why you guys are all here. Let's work on making a piece of tack. We are going to make a halter to match this guy's blanket. So let me get situated here. I'm adjusting the camera, sorry. Okay. Oh, one got missed. So you've probably seen I have these little things here, and you probably noticed me putting little scraps in here. These kind of help me keep organized while I make tack. This is kind of like my little trash bin, and this is where I will put hardware that I need. That way it's not just like loose, and I can keep track of it while I'm working. So we are going to need 4 of the smaller size, not the smallest size, 2 of the smallest size, and then of course 1 buckle. So something that I like to do, probably won't need this one at all. This is like a clipper, but not really clipping anything. I usually will use the clippers if I'm working on like anything with wire, like a beaded halter. I need like the wire cutters for that, but shouldn't need any cutters here, so I'm just going to keep my workstation as minimal as possible. Got my little scissors and got my tools. And my little trash helps me keep clean. So the first thing I'm going to do is take these medium size. I forget the exact size that these are, but I'm just going to flatten them out and make sure that they're closed as perfectly as they can be. You can see like this one, it's a little off-centered and wonky, so we just want to make sure it is flattened and as closed as it can be and not off in any way. So I'm just going to do that to all the rest of them. Okay, and now the 2 smaller ones. So going to make sure one is closed and flat, and then we are going to take the second one and we are going to, this is where the other pair comes in, open them just ever so slightly. Enough to where we can slip that other on it and close it back up. And then of course adjust it and make sure it is flush so they are both connected together. Yep, that's pretty good. Okay, everything goes back in the bucket. These are just like, they're called salt cellars. I got them at an antique store. They're just the right size to just kind of keep my workstation clean, but if, you know, any little container will kind of work. But if you want to be fancy with it, these are nice little crystal. I like crystal, so my little salt cellars come in handy, especially for keeping all this off my workstation, off my floor. So the first thing we're going to do is the noseband. So I like to get one get one on there, fold it over, leave a little bit of a tail. Sometimes there will be some excess glue on my gun, but there's not, so I'm just going to take a little tiny bit and fold it over, being as even and careful as I can, making sure it's seamless, no overflow. And then I'm going to take a tiny little bit more and seal up that raw edge like that. And that will ensure that, you know, not only is it not going to fray and fall apart like you saw, you know, some of the old ones in the bag, but it's going to have a much better fasten. And this really does just take practice to get it as clean as possible, but if you do have some overflow spillage, don't worry. There's a way we can fix that. Trust me, it happens to even the best of us. So, now that we've got it on, I just always kind of hold it down around where the mouth is. You don't want it too high or too low, and you want to kind of have the noseband rest not at the end of the nose, but kind of more so on the center of the nose bridge. You know, I try to make most of my halters a little looser. That way, not only does it just have a better look on the horse, but you can trade halters between horses a little better. If you make everything so tight and so custom to one horse, if you want to, you know, use something for a different horse, it's going to be hard to do that because that was made to fit so perfectly on that horse. It's not going to fit on another horse. I usually make it a little longer than it probably needs to be, but that's fine because now we're going to really kind of fine-tune, measure. I know some people like a tighter halter, but I try to think about if this was a real horse, I wouldn't want it to have a super tight halter. I think that's a little mean. So I'm just kind of like holding it down, checking both sides. I think that's a good length. So I've got a lot of extra right here. I'm just going to trim some of that extra, keep everything in my trash, and then glue it down just like we did the other side. Okay, and this is where we're at. Noseband done. So most people from here will start to work on the underside of the noseband, I guess the chin. They'll move on to the chin. What I like to do is I'll do the cheek pieces first. Well, not finish them, but I'll just go ahead and attach them on. Make sure that you glue everything towards the inside to keep it nice and seamless. Just get a little bit, fold it down. I kind of like to press to hold it and then seal off that edge. It takes a lot longer to do it the way that I do it, but I feel that in the long run it really does help, and especially if you want your piece to last for a really long time, you want to make sure that you take every possible step you can to make sure that you cover all your bases. No fraying, no ribbon popping open, nothing like that. Yes, it's a lot more work, but it's definitely a step that I take and that I encourage everyone to take as well if you're going to be serious about making halters, especially if you're going to sell them. I would absolutely hate to, you know, put a lot of time into a product, charge someone for it, and then, you know, a few months later, a couple months later, weeks later, they're calling saying, hey, it broke. You know, I just paid like all this money for this. So if you can see, I do have a little bit of spillage. It happens sometimes. So very carefully, I take my scissors and I trim. Absolutely be very, very careful doing this. You see, I got it, no problem. Lots of practice. Like I say, it happens, but you absolutely do not want to cut into the ribbon. If you cut into the ribbon, the whole integrity of the piece is compromised and, you know, you're done. It's trash. Like, you have to start over. So now that I have these on, I will do the chin strap. So I'm just going to hook in a little piece. I put a lot of glue. I'm probably going to get some spillage, but that's okay, because now we know how to take care of that. Seal off the end. I'm not squeezing when I do that. I'm kind of just dragging the excess over the edge. That way it seals. As you can see, I got a little bit of spillage. I'm just going to take care of that. Yep, like it never happened. Okay, and now we're just going to twist this around, kind of get a feel. And I always cut longer than I need, because that's just me. And now we're going to take our double rings. Tweezers help for this step. And thread it into the center. You can just kind of let them float around for a little while. They're not really in the way, but we need to make sure that they're connected before this next step. So as you can see, I've got it inside out. I find it easier to do this part whenever I'm working on a halter. Okay, I'm going to push it up where I want it to sit on his nose and pull it tight, but not so tight that I can't, you know, slide it around. It can't move around. I want it still, you know, I like a loose fit. I don't like a snug fit. So I'm going to kind of hold that in my hands there. We've got a little bit of extra. I'm going to trim that off, and I'm going to glue it, but I'm not going to seal that edge yet. I'm just going to kind of hold it in place, and I'm going to do one more dry fit to see if I like how that's looking. And yeah, that's about, for this model, where I want it to sit. It's a little loose. It's not too snug. I think that looks good. Okay, so now that I like the placement, I'm sure about that, I'm going to seal off that edge. Lock it in. Got a little bit of spillage. Almost every time I make halters, I have glue spillage. It's just, I don't know. It happens for me. But I really am adamant about trimming it off because, I mean, you can see we've turned it right side out now. It just looks so much better. You know, you can't even tell that there was a spillover. But I like the loose, you know. It's not too tight. He can wiggle it around a little. Okay, so now we're at this point. We've got the nose area completely done. So now we're going to turn our attention back to the cheek straps. So I'll put it on the model. And I always want the ring to be right here where the jaw and the ear kind of meet, because you want that ring to be positioned right at the jaw strap. So we're going to pull it up snug, slide it down, and kind of feel out about where we want that position. I hope you guys can see. I know my hand's in the way, but I gotta have to hold it. But if you can see, the ring is in line with the ear and the jaw, which is right where I want it. Something that I see people do a lot when they make halters is, you know, again, with it being too low on the nose, you always want to have a halter be higher on the nose than lower on the nose. But I also see people will make the cheek straps way too long. And you don't want the cheek strap to be too long, because then you're going to get, you know, bowing on the cheek strap where you have all this extra material, and when you pull the halter tight around the model, it's gonna, bow the cheek strap because there's all this extra ribbon and the length is off, and it's just a mess. So I made these way too long, but if you're concerned about conserving ribbon, I've got tons of ribbon. I know it's a little wasteful, but I would rather just be sure. But always make the sides a little shorter. Okay, and before I fuss over that and seal it off, I'm just gonna dry fit. And as you can see, my ring is in line with the jaw and the ear really well. So that's what we want. So now I'm going to seal the back and trim off the overspill. Like it never happened. And again, this really just does take practice. The more that you make, the better that you'll be in, the precision with your glue, feeling more comfortable with trimming your overflow. And then usually the second side, I just match the first side. So we'll take our very last ring and then just kind of make sure that they're in line with each other. And then trim and glue just like the other side. Alright, so this is where, this is where we're at now. You can see the shapes really starting to come together. So now we are going to do this last piece. So I always will go ahead and glue down one side to connect, and then measure and cut to the other side. Okay, side piece is connected. So now we need to think about the positioning of our cheek straps. So something else I see people do that doesn't always look the best is these straps, they make the jaw strap way too long and these pieces will be way too high up. So in my opinion, having them sit lower is always a little better and translates over a little more realistically. You don't want to think about the halter like being all up in the horse's eyes, covering their eyes. You want to kind of have it sit a little lower on the face. And I think that looks a little more realistic. Just in images I've seen, of halters. Granted, I've not owned a horse in a really long time. The last horse my family did own was a pony. And I never really paid that much attention because it was after I'd moved out, so I wasn't really involved much with her. But that looks about right. You can dry fit it if you want, but in my experience, yeah, that looks good. I'm just gonna go ahead and seal it. But yeah, making things look as close to real life as possible. Okay, I can't believe that happened. My SD card is full and my battery is at 30%, so I gotta hurry this up. We're almost done. When you get to this stage, you are like more than halfway, a couple more steps, and we're good to go. So as you can see, Chin straps on, sitting really nice. So now we're going to do the connector strap. I see a lot of people leave the connector strap off. They get to this point, they do the top piece, they're done. The connector strap, in my opinion, is absolutely essential in adding the most realism. I get my little helpers here to feed through these tiny loops. You can use the larger loops, but I just feel that the smaller ones, it's a little cleaner. So we're just going to connect that. We got like 2 more steps after this. I hope my battery doesn't die or I'm gonna have to pick up tomorrow. You want to add a lot of glue on this section. In my opinion, the connector strap is always where, you know, from halters I've made in the past and, you know, I've had of people's that they've made and sent me. This is always where it'll start popping open the most. So we're not going to dry measure here, but you want to make this piece as short as physically possible. You do not want to have it be very long. There is not a lot of space underneath the horse, you know, irregardless of whatever size halter you're making. So making it shorter is always best. So that looks good. I'm going to just kind of hold it like that. Get a little bit of glue on there and seal it down. These little strings drive me crazy dealing with hot glue. And then of course seal the edge. I like to hold it down with my finger while it's drying. I just feel like the pressure seals it in. Trim a little bit of glue strings. This part always looks the messiest for me because I really want to make sure that it's not going to come undone. But on the other side, it looks good. Okay, so now we're going to attach the buckle, the head strap, and we're done. But you can already kind of see how that looks. Like the shape's really, let me put it more in the center. The shape is really coming together. So now we're going to fasten on the buckle. So something that I learned that I think is a really essential tip into helping your halters look more realistic is horse halters always fasten on the left side. I mean, this is something I even knew back in the day. They always fasten on the left side. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you could Google the reason, but it's like a universal thing in horsemanship. If you're going to make horse products, like even blankets, I believe, fasten on the left. That's why I have my fasteners all fasten out towards the left. So that's just another layer of realism to add to your tack. Make all your buckles and fasteners out towards the left, and you've got the most realistic looking tack already just by that fact alone. I'm just going to cut a little short tabby. Take my buckle. These buckles are really thick, really sturdy. I like them a lot. Yeah, I ordered them from China. They take forever to get here, but I feel like it's well worth it because the quality is just really good. I really enjoy these buckles. Okay, it's always a little messy getting the buckle on there. If you mess up your ribbon like that, like how I did, I would just cut that little fray bit off before you try to glue, just to have the glue be a little cleaner. You really want to make sure that your buckle is not going to pop off as well, because you're going to be tugging and pulling. You're going to be tugging and pulling on the buckle part the most. So if you get a little spillage, that's okay. Just use what you've learned so far and trim it down. The buckle part gets covered anyway, so that works in our favor. And then last but not least, the strap that goes behind the ears. So we're just going to get that glued down. seal it in really well. Make sure we've got no spillage. Oh, no, I did pretty good. Just a little bit of glue string. Little tiny spill. We'll get that real quick. Okay. Then just kind of dry fit it on one last time. Throw it over. I always go down to right about the shoulder and cut. And then I'm going to thread it through the buckle. All right. And that is how we are looking, but we are not done yet. There is one more very important thing we need to do. We need to finish off this raw edge. So I usually go up about a little bit below the jaw, and I like to cut at an angle. And I will take my glue, I will squeeze a bunch out, and I will just run it along the tip like that, and then press it to seal it in. And of course, whatever overspill you have, just trim it away. But now you've ensured that your end is sealed and it won't fray. And there we have it. Oops, I hit my little tree. We are all done. And he's got a super cute brown halter to match his blanket. He's brown, so it's a little hard to kind of see. And I've got a brown lead rope here. I'm not going to make another brown one because I don't want to make another brown one, but my lead ropes, I mean, I braid my lead ropes. I cannot do the twist method to save my life. I don't know why I can't twist. I braid way better than I twist, so that's what I do. I just take these bead, so you can pick these up in a jewelry store. These are open clamshell bead crimp covers. Don't know if you can see that very well with those clunky open clamshell bead crimp covers. So what I'll do is I'll take one of these with a medium-sized jump ring, you know, smooth out the ring, of course, make sure it's closed well, and put one on the open part of the crimp cover and close it down. And that's what I like to use for lead ropes because I don't have, you know, like the fancy lead rope hooks. And I don't like to use lobster claws because I feel like lobster claws are really bulky. And these, you know, they're just a little smaller and a little bit of a cleaner product in my opinion. I mean, you can get these anywhere, there's jewelry stores, but you need to make sure that you get the open variety and not the closed variety. Because if you get the closed clamshell hooks, they will not have this little hook on the end. That loop will be completely closed, like in the name. So you got to make sure that you get the open clamshell hooks. And that's what I like to use for, you know, lead ropes and blanket hardware. They look really nice, and you don't have to spend a premium on, you know, getting Rio Rondo hardware. You know, no offense to them. They have, you know, they've been in the game for a long time, and as far as realism goes, they're the kings of realistic model horse tack. But, you know, for considering all of this stuff, with exception of my buckles, of course, I got at a craft store. You know, I think I do pretty good with just regular, everyday materials. So that is him, all nice and beautiful. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you like what you see in the video here and saw me go through that process and was kind of like, I like what you do, but takes a long time and I don't have the time or the patience to do that, you are in luck because I have recently opened up a Etsy shop. you know, I wanted to turn my hobby into something that I could share with you guys, and I've gotten a lot of comments on some of my videos of people asking if I sell the tack that I make, so I've, you know, thought about it for a while, and I decided that I was going to open up a shop. So I'll switch perspectives around and do kind of like a little screen recording thing and go through showing you guys my shop, but everything in my shop is completely customizable down to the hardware colors, you know, beads for beaded halters, ribbon choices, leather, velvet. I've got all kinds of cool things, cool styles, lots of cool colors you guys can choose from. So like this, for example, everything about this guy's little halter would be customizable for you guys to pick. Make the halter of your dreams. This is something that means a lot to me. I really enjoy working with the model horses, and I think it would be really fun to share my creations with you guys. If you order anything from my shop right now through December, I'll probably throw in a little fun Christmas surprise. I have made, let me go grab him, a couple versions of this halter with this really fun sort of Christmas ribbon. Looks really cute. Here it is on my Camargue stallion. Little Christmas ribbon, very cute. So I'm not saying it will specifically be this ribbon, but most likely it will be because I just got this in. I think it's so fun for the holidays. But if you order anything from my shop now through December, you will get a little free halter surprise. And every order will come with a color coordinating lead rope, just kind of depending on, you know, the colors and the styles of what you order. Lead ropes, they're super easy and quick to make. It feels criminal to kind of charge for those. They take no time. This is the real work in the artistry right here. These take such a long time for me to make, but so every order will always come with a color coordinating lead rope. But I'm gonna switch it over now and I'll show you guys my shop and explain kind of a little bit about how everything works. Please excuse the mess around, but this is my tower that I have all of my tack making stuff on. Organization is a big thing for me, and this kind of keeps everything in order. So at the top, I've got all my patterns, tack making tools. These are paints that I have in case I want to do painted details like on leather. And then all of my hardware for making tack, 4 different colors of wire for making beaded halters. I only have 2 colors of chain. That one is stuck as of right now. So I've got my chain, jingle bells, kind of working on something a little special for the holidays, and then specialty buckles. Got full buckles right here, and then just, you know, extra, you know, bead craft things. So the top section is all hardware tools. Down here in the second section, I have all of my ribbons except for full ribbons. Full and pony ribbons are down here because I like to use the skinnier ribbons for them. But for adult horses, you can get a lot more fun patterns and colors for them. So I've got like my velvets, so some leather in here, standard ribbons, some fun iridescent ribbons, all of my polka dots in here, and then in the bottom just like some random, oh, that one came out, it needs to go in here, but random gross grain. And then it's hard to do one-handed. Oh, my Christmas ribbon. It's just kind of loose because I've been using it. And then just some extra ribbons here. Some really fun colors that I've not added to the shop yet, but I have a plan to do like an iridescent section soon. I'm just still working on the page for that. Oh, there goes that chain through the bottom. Yeah, it's just like a wire grate. And then down here on the very bottom, I have, well, we already saw the full and pony ribbons, embroidery floss for making lead ropes. I have like way more than even this. I used to do embroidery, so I've got quite any color you can think of. I have bags and storage down here, all my beads, random net I'm working on for my barn project, and then fabrics. Got lots of fabrics, so overflow of stuff I don't need. Tons of fabrics. I already have my Halloween and fall fabrics put away, and I got this really fun fabric recently. I'm kind of saving for spring, summer to bust out. I got it from a doll making shop. It's a little stretchy, but I thought it was a really good fine mesh looking material to make like fly sheets and things like that. So kind of saving that. I have to work on the designs for that a little bit. Little sneak peek, some Valentines right here, and then of course a lot of winter Christmas patterns. Working on something with those. So usually I just kind of have, this one needs to go back in the bundle. But yeah, it's really nice to have all my stuff on this cart. I can just kind of move it around. Everything's in a place. It does, I can push it, pull it out of the way, and then it's really in close proximity to my setup. So this is how I keep all of my supplies organized. Okay, everybody, and here it is. Welcome to Tack by Coco. I'm really excited to have an Etsy shop now. I've worked really hard on this. I've got a few listings that are live so far, and more to come for sure, but this took me a lot to get these set up. I put a lot of time and effort into creating these listings because, as you can see, every listing that's here is completely customizable to all of your choices and specifications. So let's click on this little pony one. So customize your own. I've got tons of different color options to choose from. Everything down to the smallest little details are personalized to all of your making your dream tack. So the personalization section is going to be your best friend here for helping to order. Even if there's, a drop-down menu, it's a requirement on all of my listings that something must be filled in here. So if you look on the item details of every listing, it will tell you exactly how you need to order, about sizing requirements. Make sure to read everything very carefully before you order and be very detailed in how you write your order. I've got examples in most every listing to kind of show how to, even if there's drop-down menus, still make sure to input in the personalization box everything specifically that you need for your listing. So let's look at another one. So same thing kind of here. Please always be sure to read through all of the requirements for the listing. I've got sizing guides, and if you have a specific model in mind that you would like a halter made for, please let me know, and I can use a model that I have that's similarly sized to size a halter. I do try to make most of my tack a little looser, just so things can fit easier between different models, because I like to kind of, trade things out. But everything is very, detailed on how exactly you need to order. And for adult sizes, I've got 2 different types of buckles. So I've got like these ornate buckles here and sort of like a standard buckle. So if you would like, a fancier looking buckle, or these kind of look a little westerny to me as well. I've got an example. I used the ornate buckle on this ribbon halter. If you would like one of those buckles, that's the antique brass. Just also be sure to specify that in the personalizations below. I do have, once again, you have to put something in this box in all of my listings, even if there's drop-down menus, you cannot leave this blank. Something has to be input in here. Tons of different colors for the ribbons. And of course, with every order, you will get a free color coordinating lead rope. That's just a little something that I put in. I think it says that on every listing. Yep. I don't have a lot of pictures of lead ropes listed, but if you've seen my videos, you kind of see, you know, the style, how I make them. I think this little set looks so cute. But yeah, and as you can see, you know, I do make things a little looser. That way, you know, you can trade them between horses. But, you know, be sure to specify a type of horse that you would like the halter made for. Or if you have a specific model in mind, you know, specify that as well. I think I do. Yeah, you can request a cancellation, and I do take, you know, returns, especially if something gets damaged in shipping. You know, things do happen, so just, you know, always feel free to, you know, contact me. I'm always happy to help, you know, answer any questions. So just let me know if you have, you know, anything you would like to ask. I'm here to help. I love these velvet ones. Really cute for winter. But yeah, this is my shop. And of course, if you've seen my video, you've seen I've got, you know, a few things I've been working on that are not in the shop yet. I'm still kind of fine-tuning some designs, but I put a lot of, you know, time and thought into this, and I really enjoy making these things and, you know, having fun with it. And, you know, to me, it's a hobby, yes, but it's just something that I really do enjoy doing, and I like to, you know, create something new and something different, something that, you know, you don't usually see. I like to think I'm a pretty creative person, and I just wanted to let my creativity kind of show with all these different styles and designs. So I really do feel like you can find something that you're looking for here, and everything that you want in a halter. Making halters for ponies and foals is always really fun too. I think you guys maybe have seen my short where I made a little halter for this guy, and he looks so cute. So yeah, as of right now for foals, I only have the one buckle style, because I use a different type of ribbon for the smaller models. But yeah, and like I said in the earlier part of my video, anyone that places an order right now through December 31st will receive a free little Christmas surprise gift in all their orders. I do have limited quantities on a lot of my listings, especially the listings that take a lot more time to make. I do have the quantities set kind of low because I do have other things. You know, the holiday season's pretty busy for a lot of people, you know, myself especially, and I'm not sure, you know, I don't want to be super influxed with orders, so I'll probably periodically have to, you know, close and open the shop. But as for right now, everything is open, available to order. I just got in a bunch of material, and the shop is open, so get your orders in now if you would like to have some stuff by Christmas. But yeah, if you got the time, feel free to go check out my shop. I'll be sure to have it linked now in my description and my bio in my channel page. And I hope you guys will, you know, support me, support the channel, as you guys have continued to do. A lot of people seem to really like foal and pony halters. I get comments all the time from the Etsy sellers that people have added these into their cart, I guess, or like favorited the listing and everything. I guess you don't see a lot of people making full halters. they are a little more challenging to make, especially for little babies. But yeah, I try to do stuff for my little horses because you don't see a lot of people wanting to make stuff for little horses, and I like my little horses, so they deserve some fancy hardwares as well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll be sure to have it linked in my bio. So check out my Etsy.